Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up, everybody? Episode 114 of Sports Card Nation. Have a great show on tap for you today. Joining the show to talk about the fractional share market, the CEO of Collectable, Ezra Levine. Going to talk about the live secondary market, which they're the first ones to launch that aspect on a fractional share platform, and we're going to talk about it, man. The fractional share are here to stay, like it or not, active in it or not. I am a little bit, and we're going to talk with Ezra about how fast this has really taken hold in the hobby and what's on the horizon with it as well. So happy to be joined by Ezra on the program. Going to announce the Blake Jamieson Wave 3 winner as well. And got a great show on tap for you. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Time for this week's incoming product releases. All right, got 8 items scheduled to come out this week, starting with today, the 12th, Leaf in the Game, used hockey. On the 15th, 2020 Onyx Nimbus Collection Baseball. On the 17th, 2021 Top Star Wars Signature Series. Also on the 17th, 2020-21 Panini Certified Basketball. Also on the 17th, Upper Deck, The Cup Hockey, one of their famous releases, high-end. On the 19th, 2021 Leaf Lumber Baseball. And on the 19th, 2020 Topps Formula One Dynasty Racing. And this stuff is already doing very well on the secondary market, pre-sale, pre-release. Also on the 19th, closing out the week, 2020 Panini Limited Football. So there you go, this week's releases in the hobby. Pick and choose what you're going for. Good luck ripping and finding it.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, the card gods were smiling upon me this week. As you know, I don't you might know, I don't open a ton of product, not like I used to. But this week, I did I did get some of the Blake Jamieson 1951 Wave 1 Topps 13 card sets with potential parallels in them, and I got some to keep closed, and I got some extra ones that a buddy of mine bought a couple and just wanted me to buy them and then ship them out to him. And so I opened the first box I opened. The parallels, by the way, if you don't already know, if you want to surprise yourself, they're the last card in the pack on the seam. So if you can open the pack at the seam and not, kind of have the solid part of the pack facing you, and you for the surprise element, otherwise you can tell usually if you got a parallel because it's a different colored back. And so I videotaped, as I usually videotape all my openings when I can, and so I had the cameras rolling, and I opened that pack with the front part of the pack being seen first, so not knowing what that last card is or isn't. There's not a parallel in every pack. There's no guarantee. And so went through the cards 1 to 13, Trout being the first one, and we got to that last pack, and as I slid that last card away, when I got to card 13 and then there was one more card, I knew that I had a parallel. Didn't know which one yet, so I slow rolled it a little bit, and I could see it was Cal Ripken. I could see it had a number stamped on the front, and at first I thought it was numbered to out of 10, which is still very good. And as my eyesight's starting to go, I had to kind of squint and move the card closer while trying to keep it on camera. And I realized that this card was a Ripken 1 of 1 yellow back, a 1 of 1. And I was like, and I didn't believe it. I kind of double checked, make sure I was seeing it right. And great pull. Kind of stopped there. I was debating opening 2 of these, to be blunt honest with you. But after that, I figured I'm going to quit while you're ahead. When you got the casino's money, leave. Don't keep playing. And kind of left it at that. So Ripken 1 of 1, crazy. Even on going on eBay and looking to see, what other 1s or 1s were there, as of a few days ago, I didn't see any. And so doing the math of the print run and figuring there's obviously a 1 of 1 of all 13 of Series 1 cards, the Series 1 falls in 1 in 593 boxes. So obviously a rarity. Pretty excited about it. That for someone that doesn't open a ton, when that happens, it's really really fun. So like I always say, most of the time the bear eats you. Every once in a while, you get to eat the bear. The Topps Rip Party is in the books, and Topps 2021 flagship is live and on the scene. I have not opened any yet myself, but I haven't went to Walmart or Target to see if I can get any on the retail level. That's where I will buy some. I do plan on opening some. It's Topps flagship. Just on watching some other breaks and videos. The product does look fairly nice. The one big complaint, if I'm hearing any, is, a lot of people don't like the vertical cards. The other complaint is Topps offered it on its website at $80, which is, in my estimation, a pretty fair price. But when you, at the same time, a lot of the wax sellers and distributors are at $150, and so a lot of people are complaining. I saw a lot of posts saying, see, this is the problem in the hobby. The wax sellers are price gouging. While I don't necessarily disagree, again, the power is in the consumer's hand. If they refuse to pay a price, then that price will have to come down if that seller wants to sell, and especially on a non-premium, if you will, flagship product. So if you don't like the price, don't buy it, and that price has to come down unless that vendor or seller wants to just sit on that wax. And I don't think 2021 flagship is that kind of product for most resellers. So, you don't like the price, don't fork it over. I mean, that's how you win that battle. Shout out to former sponsor Deep Fried Breaks. They did a break of the 2021 tops, and not for them, but for one of their customers. They got that one of, I believe, the 25 silver tickets, if you will, for the Tops event with some baseball players. So congrats to them for pulling it, and congrats to whoever was fortunate enough to win that in the break. It'll be interesting to see who gets the rest of them. It's almost, I always compare that aspect of Tops to the Willy Wonka golden ticket, just seeing where do they come out, what part of the country or maybe even overseas does someone get that in. So we talked a little bit about Beckett grading with the slab controversy and some of the fake slab surfacing, especially out of China. And, them saying that they're going to do, they're researching it, they're looking into it, and they're probably going to be using, developing new anti-counterfeit technology very soon after not updating their product line in many years and long overdue. And then it comes out this week, another price increase from Beckett Grading. And again, I don't use Beckett Grading at this point for my grading uses. I'll save the rhetoric and the dialect on that one. But, after not so bad, not such a good look, for somebody mentioned that the prices have doubled on certain levels. And, it's, again, after a black eye on what the company's doing, and this following that, I don't get it. It's not my place to get it. Maybe they need to raise this capital to get those new technologies underway and implemented. I don't know, but the trend of grading costing more and more is continuing, and a lot of it, I think, in like PSA's case, in SGC's case, is to persuade, less lower level cards, if you will, from being submitted, so they can maybe do a little catching up with. But I think in this case with Beckett, again, it's all speculation by me, probably is to generate some capita to implement these new technologies. All right, again, Tops Now, Major League Baseball Network's top 100 player packs are on the Tops site. What I've been doing and what I did even last year, I got a ton of those rewards points. You can use your rewards points and get these Tops Now Major League Baseball Network packs. They're Tops Now kind of finished, glossy, thick stock. Last year's packs for me were pretty fruitful. I got a Hiura numbered to 25 auto and some rookies. Obviously, it's a prospect product, and Bichette and Alvarez, and really nice cards. And when in my case, when you have enough points, you can get about 5 or 6, 7, 8 packs of these for free. I don't use all my points up at one time, but I do use some of my points to acquire these packs, and there are parallels in them. And as I said, autos, no guarantees, but in the few packs I opened last year, I'd say half of them either had a color or an auto. And really like this particular product. Being online exclusive, you can't, it's not a hobby level product. And again, it's a good way to use your points. With the rewards points from Topps, as you know, it's only on Topps Now products, and sometimes they're sporadic with their releases of those. So this gives you a great opportunity to use those points, and you can use them all. I mean, there's no real limit to how many you can use. You can, if I wanted to, I could probably buy 100 packs of these and not pay for them, but I bought, I think, 6 or 7 this year. I bought 4 or 5 last year, and obviously next year I'll use the points I have then as well. So check that out, and you don't have to use your points. You can just buy the packs. I believe they are $14.99 or $19.99. I think you get 10 cards per pack. All right, the Collectors Universe / PSA transaction sale is finally agreed upon and completed. They settled at $92 a share. So if you have any shares in Collectors Universe, it's time to cash out at the tune of $92 for every share you have. So not a bad deal. I think previous valuations were in the 50s or 60s. Collectors Universe, PSA, is now going to go private. It's been reported they have now a 5 million card backlog. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but that's what's being reported, that they're at a 5 million card backlog. And it'll be interesting to see now that this really sort of official now, what kind of new rules, new price levels, new policies we're going to see. I'm hoping they're on the consumer side, but honestly, I'm not overconfident when it comes to that. Speaking of grading, let's close out the hobby news segment with a hybrid grading company. Started in Tennessee by Tyler Hitt. Check him out. He was on my friend Drew Herndon's. Let me get that potograph, and Drew put him through the paces to what they're doing, how they're doing it. The only thing I'll say, he's claimed it's completely automated with a human element at the end, but we haven't seen that. It's just been a verbal, accreditation. I'd like to see some proof of that. The other issue we're seeing, there's been a couple slabs that I've seen pictures on social media where it's, Clyde Hilaire from the Chiefs, the running back, and the label says it's Patrick Mahomes. So there's some kinks apparently to be worked out. They got the wrong labeling. The labels, I got to be honest with you, really, really sharp. They're color coded to the card. I think they're presented well. But again, anyone can say they're automated. I can tell you, I started an automated grading service yesterday. It doesn't mean it's true. It isn't true, but I just said it, right? So I'd like to see that in action, a video release. Show us how this process goes. I know a lot of these grading companies don't want that seen, but with a new one like this, trying to really establish themselves and get a foothold in this grading card market, I think you really need to do that. And, not a good look with the mislabeled labels so soon, but they're not the first grading company to do that. So, I don't want to crucify them too much, but again, people are starting to ask questions, and I don't see those questions getting answered. And honestly, if the company, Hybrid Grading, does not want to answer those questions, I really wonder if they're going to be able to make it in this grading card market. And don't forget, we got CSG now going live as well. So the pool's getting crowded, the competition's getting more fierce, and so you've got to do things to establish yourself. And so we'll see how this all shakes out. The grading industry in itself is like a soap opera from week to week. You just don't know what's going to happen next. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA submissions. They offer various service levels at the lowest prices around. They even provide the card savers your cards need to be submitted at no extra charge. Their elite status helps improve turnaround times, and their chat rooms keep you abreast of your subs and the status of your cards. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Commence interview sequence.
All right, real excited to have my next guest on the One of One Card Shop guest line. He's the CEO of Collectable, a fractional shares company, one that I'm happy to say I'm an active participant in myself, so I'm kind of coming in as a user as well, which always is a good thing to talk about it because I have some hands-on experience with it. But I don't want to talk too much. He's right here, and I want to bring him on the show. Ezra Levine, welcome to the show.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. I was telling you backstage that your show has one of the catchiest jingles I've ever heard. I find myself randomly in the shower just saying Sports Card Nation. So I'm thrilled to be out the show. Thanks for having me, and we are huge fans of your platform.
Well, I appreciate that. I got to give, since you mentioned the intro song, I'll give credit. That's Eric Dano. He's the lead singer from the Polyphonics, a ska band, and he came up with that. He asked me kind of words and slogans, but he put the arrangement together, and so he did a good job with that. I get a lot of compliments on that. I am not musically talented. My dad's a drummer, so that's I can drum a little bit, but stuff like that, there's no way I would have been able to do it. So I'll leave that to the professionals, and thank you. But welcome, thanks for coming on. Before we get into Collectable, like I said, the fractional shares market, for those who thought this was going to be a fad that was here today, gone tomorrow, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would say. And we'll get into that. But sort of your hobby background, did you collect cards as a younger kid, a younger man, and kind of how it came sort of full circle, if it did?
I did, yeah. I still have a massive stash of all the cards that I grew up with. I was born in 87, right? And I collected cards. It was one of my favorite things to do. I'll never forget when I was away for the summer and my parents would want to send me a gift as opposed to sending me candy like some parents send to their kids when they go away to sleepaway camp or what have you. My parents always sent boxes of cards. And I was always that kid who always had, new boxes, and people would kind of gather around my bunk bed at camp, and we'd open it and we'd have fun, and I would be trading cards right and left. I still have all those cards. Unfortunately, when I grew up, I sort of fell for this notion that if you collected cards, by the time you got to 33 years old, which I am right now, that I would be retired and a billionaire. I think unfortunately that notion, that perception was too widespread, and And there's not exactly a lot of scarcity in the cards that I have growing up. I still every once in a while go back to my collection thinking that maybe I'll stumble upon a Jordan card or something. But so yeah, I collected as a kid. And really where my passion for the hobby began, really still lives, to be honest with you, is my dad, right? My dad is a major collector. This was always something that I knew he did growing up and was incredibly passionate about. He would always leave us for a couple of days every summer to go to the Nationals convention. We never really knew what he was doing, but he was always away for a couple of days with his buddies. And now I know. So he's a big mantle collector. He's a big Koufax guy. He grew up in sort of on the outskirts of Massachusetts. His brother was a diehard Red Sox fan, so naturally he became a diehard Yankees fan.
All right, so you mentioned your dad's a big Yankee fan. I got to ask the obvious question coming off that, Ezra. I believe the first offer, it's one I own 3 shares of myself from Collectable, was the 53 Topps Mantle. I got to ask, did Dad get in on that too, I hope?
He did. He was pumped. So back when the industry wasn't as hot or as expensive, he owned a lot of unbelievable mantle cards. And I know one of his regrets still to this day is that he wound up selling all those mantle cards and not actually keeping all those mantle cards. So, he was pumped about fractional because really what it does is allows him to own all those cards that he sold that are now way too expensive for him to buy back into. So again, fractional, in my opinion, fractional is becoming ever more important in this hobby. I'm thrilled that there's a lot more attention flowing in, that prices continue to go up. That's awesome for the hobby, right? I think we both love the industry, love the hobby, want the hobby to flourish and grow in every way, shape, and form. The unfortunate consequence of that is that people get priced out, right? And especially at the upper end of the market. Things that used to be relatively affordable are only now affordable to institutions or to very wealthy individuals. Collectible and fractional ownership, for that matter, really is a way to provide exposure to people at the highest end of the industry in a way that is affordable, right? The entry on our platform with the mantle, for instance, that 53 mantle, that was a $2.5 million card a couple months ago. Who knows what it's worth today after the mantle 8s have essentially tripled in value plus over the past couple weeks, right? But again, it's just a way for people to get exposure to iconic, previously unaffordable assets for as little, in some cases, as $10 per share, which I think is a really cool and powerful concept for the industry.
Yeah, and to stick up, make your dad feel a little bit better. My dad tells stories growing up in Brooklyn, had all those kind of cards and put them in the bike spokes, threw them around, beat them up, and then somehow they just disappeared. My grandma, his mom probably tossed them out as you get older. So at least he got to probably enjoy them more. And, and if he sold them, he did better than my dad. They were just went MIA, and they weren't in probably great condition as they used to be. My dad had to go back and kind of backtrack and sort of fill in some blanks later on. He was lucky he did it really before kind of the boom we're seeing now, before the grading craze really took hold. But, one of the questions I have with collect, I know a lot of people bag on fractional shares because they say, well, you don't really own the card. You're buying into, but you don't have physical possession of the card. And whenever I hear that, I sort of take up the flag and defend fractional shares. But that's you're buying. It's like buying a stock. And you said it perfectly. I'm not in the stratosphere to buy a 53 Topps Mantle in that shape outright, and very few people can probably say that. And so to participate, and even I remember when the day I bought those 3 shares, I posted on the show's social media, I'm the proud minority owner of this, and I posted a picture of it, and got a lot of feedback from it. And you got to know what the intent of the offering is and what we're talking about here. If you want to own a card, you can buy the card if you can buy the card, and more power to you. I mean, if you're asking me, can I own 3 shares or can I own the card outright? I'd love to own the card outright, but this is, we got to talk about reality and not fantasy land. And so, for what it is, it's great as long as you go in without any false pretenses. And I think those that make that argument, I think probably, and I don't want to paint them all with a broad brush, but probably someone that's not interested to begin with, and just wants to be derogatory or negative towards that sort of niche of the hobby. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, when those offerings, I get the notification on my phone. Yeah, this is being offered. If anyone thinks fractional share markets are that of a niche product, 10 minutes later, I get a notification. Thanks, everyone. The product is sold out. And so it's quick. And so, whether you like it or don't like it, I particularly like it. There's obviously a lot of other people who do as well, because these, as you well know, these things are not taking long to sell out, and the buzz. We're past the buzz phase. This is a legitimate part of the hobby that's going to be here to stay. To me, putting on my looking at my crystal ball, this is going to be here for the long haul. If you don't like it or it's not your thing, that's the beauty of the hobby, Ezra. You don't have to do anything you don't like to. You can enjoy the hobby in any form or facet you like. And so, what have you noticed, sort of being on the other side too, with people who say that? Do you get that a lot?
We do, right? So we do get that a lot. I mean, one thing that I think what you just said is crucially important, right? So we don't view this as a substitute for physical collecting. We really don't, right? And in a lot of ways, we would love to physically own 53 mantles. We would love to own 52 mantles. We'd love to own Jordan 86 Fleers. Of course, anyone would. I don't think anyone would necessarily, choose fractional over physically collecting. But again, the reality is that most of the assets on our platform are not assets that people could afford to own physically. So, it's a way for them to get exposure to stuff that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. So again, everyone who works at Collectable with Collectable, we're all, hobbyists ourselves. We're all physical collectors. I have my own physical cards. I collect what I can afford to collect physically, and I invest in things that I can't afford to. And that's the beauty of it. It's fully complementary. It expands the opportunities. It expands what we're able to have exposure to. That's the real power of it. So I totally understand that feedback, that criticism. It's definitely a different way to collect. People are not necessarily used to it as it relates to the hobby, but people are used to fractional ownership when it comes to a lot of other things. People are very used to fractional ownership when it comes to their 401ks. They're very owning shares in companies that trade publicly. This is really no different. It's allowing people to get exposure to the blue chips. It just so happens that the blue chips aren't Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon, Netflix, and Google, right? But in this case, they're the Mantles, the Jordans, what have you. So again, I just think it's, it takes a little bit of consumer adoption, a little bit of education. I think, we certainly are in the very early stages of our company's journey. We just launched in September. I think the more people get comfortable with it, the more people will realize that, again, this is something that, I don't know if you think this, but I think this. I'm a little biased in my saying it, but I think this is something that is awesome for the hobby, right? I think this is something that is going to grow the hobby and allows people to participate in ways that are not complicated. They're really pretty easy, right? I've taken informal polls of my friends, right? Just sports loving friends, right? And I said, how many of you guys, have bet on a sports game in the past 12 months? A lot of them have. How many of you guys have played fantasy sports? A lot of them have. How many of you guys have collected a sports card? Crickets, right? I mean, a few of them have, but most of them are sort of ignorant to it. They don't really know where to begin. It's complicated. There's all these variations. There's there's a lot to learn about this hobby. So with companies like Collectable, where all you need to do is have a profile a cell phone and a couple bucks in your pocket, you can own and learn about the industry in a way that is as fun, as user-friendly, as interesting, as interactive as some of the other ways to sort of express your fanhood about sports. So again, I think fractional ownership, while I get the criticism, I just think it's a little bit of an education gap that we need to do that we're doing. But I think once people get it, the concept really sells itself.
And I think, I don't want to paint people with a broad brush, but I think a lot of where that criticism comes from is from people who haven't looked into it. It's just easy to take a pot shot and be critical of something that maybe you don't understand. It's easy to be critical when you don't research something. It's just sort of the easy way out. That's dumb, or I have my cards. You don't have the card, and you got to see it for what it is. The opportunity, as you just said yourself, that to own even a small part of a card that maybe you dreamed of as a kid, and here you do, and again at the price offerings too, Ezra. I mean, you're gonna. I don't. A lot of these products or offerings. At the entry levels, the way the market is going right now, especially for stuff that's in the conditions that you're offering, stuff is going up. Now things can change. I get that. That's like anything. But I don't know what it's going to wind up being. But I think a majority of the offerings people are not going to lose on. Again, that's an opinion. But like you just brought up with the Mantle recently, look at what the PSA 10 just sold for, and that stuff affects even the value, the grades below it. Those have to get in line with that price range, and we've seen that area of the market just continue to trend up. So if you get in an initial offering, I mean, even if you were to not make out, the loss would be minimal, if that, or you may just, not lose. You just, stay parallel. So I think, it's just easy to criticize something maybe that doesn't interest you, rather than just say, hey, it's not my thing, but, enjoy the hobby, how you see fit.
Right.
All right, we're going to step aside for a real quick break from a word from one of our sponsors, the Sports Card Shop at MoCo. Those fathers and sons doing great things in the hobby, and they're expanding the shop. But let's hear from them.
The Sports Card Shop at MoCo is your small-town local shop with a global reach. Conveniently located in New Buffalo, Michigan. We're an easy drive for most residents in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. Come see us every Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5 and Sundays from 12 to 5. Want to shop from the comfort of your home? Give us a call at 269-469-0140 or visit our website at thesportscardshop@moco.com or our Facebook page. Major credit cards and PayPal accepted, and we ship anywhere in the world. We're an authorized dealer for both Panini and Topps, with new sealed wax from both arriving weekly. And yes, we have PSA and SGC graded cards and over 250,000 singles in stock. Be sure to follow us and turn on notifications for posts to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you don't miss out on new arrivals. The Gocher family has been serving this community for over a decade, so stop by or visit us at thesportscardshop@moco.com.
Sports Card Nation is back with Ezra Levine.
Right. I mean, one thing which I was told a lot when we first launched this company is the hobby doesn't have a great track record, if you will, of welcoming new players, of welcoming new technologies, of welcoming new ways of collecting. If you rewind back to the early 90s when the grading companies were really getting going, there were a lot of people who were very critical of the grading agencies. Right? They thought it was a flash in the pan. They thought
I was one, and I've said this on my show many a time, Ezra. I've done a 180, and we can be wrong sometimes. We can change our minds in our opinion. That's the beauty of being human.
100%.
Yep. But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you after.
No, sorry. I was going to say, just that I heard this a lot, right? That the hobby is not overly welcoming to new entrants. It happened with the grading companies, and now it's sort of inarguable that the grading companies are a real foundation of the industry. It happened again with breaking culture, fairly recently, and now I don't think it's arguable that breaking culture has brought up a lot of excitement and new people into the hobby. I think the same thing is true with fractional. It's new, it's different, it's innovative. It's just a different way for people to collect, and that takes time for people to get used to get comfortable with. I personally, again, totally biased perspective here. I think fractional is not only here to stay, but the importance of fractional will only expand over time. I think it's important for everyone in the industry to understand that the fractional ownership business model, we're in the top of the first inning here, right? What you see today is not what fractional is going to look like even in 6 months, right? If you rewind 6 months for Collectable, we weren't even launched yet. Now we've done 35 offerings. We're introducing our secondary market in the next couple of days. We have 45 offerings coming down the pipeline. We have a lot of other innovative, exciting things planned for the hobby, whether it's live events, whether it's content, whether it's education. I mean, there's just so much coming down the pipeline for this industry. And again, I think if you're an industry lover, if you're a hobby lover, right, which I think all of us probably who listen to this podcast or show we all love the hobby, right? I mean, I think it's great that it's bringing in new people, that it's bringing in new eyeballs, that it's introducing a new way of collecting, that it's bringing in, again, just a new way of doing it that allows the hobby to expand, right? So again, I'm thrilled for what fractional could do for the industry. I really am. And I think it's really for Collectable, for all these fractional companies, it's a matter of telling our story. And I'm thrilled, John, that you're having me on tonight, because it allows me to kind of tell our story to your audience and to help, sort of just shape our narrative and educate people in terms of the opportunity.
Well, I think it's important because I think you nailed that right on the head. Whether you like it or not, it's number one, it's here to stay. And number two, like you said, it's going to be important to the hobby as a whole. And whether you participated in it or not, if you're in the hobby, fractional shares are going to be an integral part of the hobby that you love or you're passionate for. And that's irregardless of whether you're participating in it or you're not. I think, you mentioned grading. I think that's a great comparison. When grading first started, like you said, people were sort of resistant to it. I fell into that category initially. And now it's such a huge part. And I see sort of with fractionals, Ezra, I see sort of the same trajectory. You get a little resistance at the beginning, and slowly that resistance comes down, and people realize what it is, what it entails, and how it serves the hobby and the importance. And so I see sort of the same trajectory, the same parallel as what grading did, 20, 30 years ago. And it's important. And this isn't just relegated to hobby. I think it's a human nature. Some people just, change can be scary. Whether it's at your job and there's new policies or new even a new computer program. Like, oh man, I'm so used to the old program. I got to learn this new, right? True. People get comfortable, right? They get sort of comfortable. And I think by now, I don't want to make this a psychology course, but I think humans, we're sort of lazy by nature, right? It just kind of comes ingrained, and right. So, we don't like to learn something new all the time if we don't have to. Some people maybe a little more than others, they're a little self-motivated, but just by human nature. And so I think that's where some of the resistance comes from. But I don't want to talk about the negative. We're going to go past that. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned you got 45 offerings coming soon. One of the questions I have is, where do you, obtain these offerings? How does that whole process? Do you have someone that's looking for them? I'm guessing too, at this point, the way the hobby's booming, people will approach Collectable and say, "Hey, I have this. I'd like any interest in maybe doing something with that." Kind of speak to that process, to where the stuff is sourced from.
Sure. So a good place to start here is just a little background on Collectable, right? So we're not just a startup company who launched over the last couple of months. Collectable has actually been in this hobby for a while. It just wasn't a fractional ownership company. Collectable has been around since 2014. For a couple of years, we were the number one rated sports auction data aggregation company. And so effectively, you could just go on the free Collectable app and search for auction results for sports collectible items. Right? So through that, we developed a lot of relationships with collectors, with dealers, with auctioneers, what have you. And when we decided to pivot the business, I wasn't involved in the business at the time, but when we decided to pivot the business, we had a lot of those existing relationships already in place. Right? And so we definitely tapped into a lot of those existing relationships early on. We've made a lot of new ones. I brought some of my own connections to the industry too. And, I also think that Collectable really, sort of offers a pretty compelling seller's proposition, right? Collectable is the only company, to my knowledge, in this industry that allows sellers to sell a partial ownership in a collectible, right? So if you think about it, right, you could have something, maybe you bought it a couple of years ago, and it's appreciated a lot in value. You think it may go up a lot more over time, but you want to take some chips off the table, take some profits, get a little liquidity for yourselves, right? So I think introducing that degree of seller flexibility has really been a huge boon to Collectable and allowed us to get our hands on some amazing supply. We've also struck up relationships and exclusive relationships with a lot of major collectors, right? We have one with a company called Sports Immortals, who is in a lot of ways considered to be the preeminent sports memorabilia collector ever, right? They have, about 3 years ago, their collection was appraised for $250 million. I can only imagine what their collection is worth today after everything has gone up so much, right? So we have a 5-year exclusive relationship with Sports Immortals, right? So that's been huge for us. But again, it's just we have a big network which started from our previous company and has only catapulted ourselves as we've done fractional. We get a lot of incoming supply. We're primarily consignments only, right? We purchase a couple items here and there, but primarily it's consignments. We get a lot of incoming offers for stuff. We don't accept most of it. We do a lot of due diligence and research and work on everything we put up on the platform. We fight for our users and our investors every day to try to get the best supply. But yeah, so our supply really comes from just our extensive network, which has been built really since 2014.
And I want to, let everyone know too, you're SEC regulated. This is all, everything's above board. Trust me, I'm old, so I've been doing 401k and stocks for many years. I'm familiar with the paperwork, and I remember the first time I got the Collectable paperwork, and I was a little surprised, like, holy smokes, look at this. It was just like all my other kind of paperwork along those lines. So everything is all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, that sort of thing. You mentioned like everything's really consignment. Some of the offerings, the owner of the item will keep a certain share. Yep. What percentage is that the case to where the whole item maybe is offered, and what determines the difference there? Is it only the owner?
Yeah, sure. So I would say it's probably almost a 50-50 split of items where the consignor retains at least partial ownership versus ones that we sell outright. We really give the seller the total flexibility, right? Again, our job is to provide the best opportunities for investment, for collecting for our users, whether that's selling all of an item or whether it's selling a partial ownership of something. Again, we just want to provide opportunities. We want to provide liquidity for the market. We want to provide flexibility for the market. So really the onus is sort of on the consignor to tell us how much they're willing to sell today, right? And to be totally transparent, we've had people who love to invest in offerings where the seller is retaining a large degree of ownership. Some people think that that's sort of an implicit sign from the consignor that they believe there's upside remaining. And we've had other people who say, I won't touch anything where a seller retains a lot of equity because I lose some degree of control if and when it comes to the point where we receive acquisition offers. And, I think both opinions are totally valid, And that's and that's something that I actually love about it, right? It sort of creates a little bit of a market in and of itself, right? Some people love it, some people hate it, but that's what makes a market, and that's what's exciting to us, right? Is just providing a different way, a new way for people to consign items, to sell items. If you think about it, the only way to really sell stuff in the past has been to sell 100% of a collectible. How many times? I don't know. It's definitely happened to me. I know it's happened to my dad because I've heard horror stories about this. I'm sure it's happened to you too, John. I'm sure it's happened to a lot of your users, right? You don't want to sell something, but you need to sell something, right? Yeah. Or you sell it and you're kicking yourself because it's gone up a lot. Why the hell did I sell it, right? But in truth, you've only been able to sell things 100%. Now you don't have to. You can come to Collectible and say, I'll sell 25%. I'll sell 50%. I'll sell 75%. It's totally up to the consigners. And that's something that has been really powerful and really exciting for a lot of people who have tremendous collectibles.
Yeah, so piggybacking off that too, Ezra, let's say I consign a card to Collectible and I say I want to sell half a stake in this and retain half a stake. What happens to the physical card? Do I have to? Who gets it? I'm going to assume that if that's using me as an example, that you would have to take possession of the card itself, the physical card.
Correct. Yeah. So we hold everything physically. We insure it. We vault it. We make sure that it's fully protected up to the highest of industry standards. What will happen is effectively you'll get however much cash you receive that you decide to sell to the public once the offering is funded, and you'll retain the balance in shares on your collectible account. Those shares can be freely traded like anyone else's shares on Collectible. So again, just the utmost flexibility, but also the utmost protection for the other buyers in the offering. That again, the items are fully insured. We maintain possession. We vault them, we secure them, and so again, it's just a really awesome way to provide additional flexibility for the marketplace.
Yeah, and it's one of those questions. I knew kind of the answer before I asked, but for those out there listening that maybe wondered that, there you go, and that's honestly the way it should be. That way, everything a consigner can't suddenly the card can't be found, or maybe there's a divorce and the wife or spouse, I'll just say spouse, takes the card and that can get ugly and messy. And so that avoids all of those pratfalls and potential doomsday scenarios. And that, like you said, it's something that no one that's participating has to worry about something like that occurring. So, we see a lot of these, the hobby right now, as we both know, and everyone out there, it's just booming to a level with stratosphere we haven't really seen the likes of, at least in a long, long time. We see a lot of celebrities now getting involved in the hobby, actors. Kind of your thoughts on that, and even like what effect do you think that it has to what Collectible does? Is it help? No effect? Just good for the hobby and not Collectible. Your thoughts on seeing that?
You said it well. I mean, the hobby is booming. Right? The hobby for the first time in a long time is something that is really cool. Right? It's becoming really cool. Right? For a long time, it was something that a lot of people were doing, but no one really wanted to talk about. Right? Now it's something that, as you said, you're seeing athletes get involved. You see when headlines come up that a card sold for record prices, athletes are responding on social media saying that they own cards themselves. You're seeing actors like Mark Wahlberg and his kids are partaking. You're seeing influencers like Gary Vaynerchuk, obviously, brings a lot of eyeballs to the table. DJ Ski, Steve Aoki, you name it. You're seeing a lot of sophisticated business people get into it. You're seeing a lot of financial types, whether it's institutional capital, whether it's asset managers. You're seeing real money sophistication coming into the space. I think it's a really powerful combination of two massive tailwinds, just two very bullish indicators for the industry, right? Widespread consumer adoption. Companies like Barstool are getting in now. The Ringer just announced the podcast. Again, Gary Vaynerchuk, all those celebrities we mentioned, right? So there's this huge amount of sports fans' acceptance and excitement about the industry, arguably for the first time, which is very exciting. But again, you also have, in addition to this, you're having this being viewed as a legitimate alternative asset class. Right? One thing I've said for a while, and I think people are starting to see the effects of this, but I don't think they fully appreciate it, right? There are tens of trillions of dollars that are passively being allocated to other types of investments that are not really yielding or generating much return at all for major institutions. Every institution in the world is looking for other places to invest, right? And if you look at the data is not amazing in this industry. Hopefully Collectible can provide a lot more data and a lot more transparency. But when you look at the data at the upper end of the industry where Collectible is primarily dealing, the returns have been stellar, right? I mean, again, you could argue that there's a little bit of selection bias in the data. You could argue that data is not deep enough, that maybe it's starting at a point where the market wasn't there are all these things that you could argue about the data sets, and I totally understand that. Right. But for the past 12 years, the upper end of the sports collectibles market has outperformed a raging bull market in the public markets. There's also a lot of studies which suggest that similar to other alternative assets like art, for instance, that it exhibits what's called low correlation. Really. Right. So really what that means is that when times get tough, when the market takes a leg down, that sports collectibles don't go down as much. In some cases, sports collectibles goes up. Right. We've seen that across numerous cycles now, right? We saw that in the 90s. We saw that in the dot-com crash. We saw that in 2008. We saw it again during COVID. I mean, I don't think anyone would have thought that when the market was down, whatever was down during COVID, that the hobby, sure, took a minor dip, but then it exploded. Right? So again, people are looking for alternatives. And this is a big industry. It's certainly a multi-billion-dollar category. But it's a small enough industry where you start to get real allocations from real institutions, which are starting to get, believe me, I speak to a lot of people who are looking at the cross-section of sports collectibles and finance. There's a lot of money coming in. And really, I think that's what you're seeing is there's a lot of money competing for a limited supply. Everyone's chasing the icons. Everyone's chasing those iconic athletes, the Mantles, the Jordans, right? Everyone's chasing that. So, yeah, I've been surprised by the pace at which this has happened. I won't lie to you. Like for a little context, just what feels like 3 years ago, but it was last week, Collectible announced that we received at the time a record-breaking buyout offer on our Jordan PSA 10 86 Fleer. Right? Like last week, it was $265,000. It was a record-breaking offer for that card. Fast forward to today, Golden sold two, right, for $738,000. And when I spoke to him the other day, he said that he also sold a couple privately at those same prices. There were underbidders in all these auctions. So, I think people who keep saying that there's a massive dip coming, that these prices are unsustainable. Again, I'm not making a prediction, but I just want people to be aware that there is a lot of money coming in, a lot of money chasing few assets. And I personally, I could be totally wrong. I don't want to make a prediction, but I think this industry is just getting started. I think you're going to see prices that nobody thought was possible, that nobody believed to be true, that are going to be sustainable over long periods of time. And you could even, think that prices you see today could be very cheap next week. Who knows, right? Who knows? Yeah. Again, it's been exciting. It's been, in some cases, jaw-dropping to see the velocity of how quickly this happened. But I really think we're here to stay.
Yeah, it's crazy. And one thing you mentioned, I want to piggyback on, whether you do it for that reason or not, that's neither here nor there. Sports cards are an asset class. Now, you may not be doing that. You may be, someone may be a set collector, or I collect all, Don Mattingly cards or whoever, and they're not necessarily seeing dollar signs. But I think what we've seen even more so recently is this is a fully fledged asset class that's, like you said, Ezra, has outperformed stocks. And I'm someone that does stocks, and I can tell you someone who does. I do stocks and I do cards, and like you said, the cards have paid better dividends as far as percentages go. Time to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, 101 Card Shop. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way. And we are back with Ezra Levine from Collectable. And you brought up another great point. It's almost, recession proof, or in this past year, pandemic proof. I was on this very show in March when the pandemic first hit, not knowing what we were in for or how long it was going to last. We're still in it. And I remember saying on my show, cards, your sales may drop. Hold on. Might be a great buying opportunity as people maybe panic sell. And we saw, like you said, maybe a little dip initially, and then the trajectory just, like you said, the explosion. And during a world, not a pandemic in the United States, but a worldwide pandemic to boot. And if you would have told me, and I've done this 30-something years now, so if you would have told, for whatever the 2 cents that's worth, that's one of the fun things about the hobby is even when you think you don't know. It sounds like the opening to the real world, and, but it really is like that. You don't know what potentially could happen. But I think now we're starting to see, like you said, we're starting to see that this hobby may be, I don't want to jinx anything, but sort of, I don't want to say foolproof, but can weather these storms that other types of entities maybe not as much or not as fortunate to. And not only weather it, but actually thrive during it, which is crazy when you really take a step back and look at that and see what these, every week a new auction record's broken, more than one most of the times. And, it's just it's insane. And like you said, this may be just the beginning. People are talking about I hear market correction, crash. I'm definitely I don't see a crash. If anything, maybe a correction, and on just certain things. Maybe the one thing we saw rise this year is rookie cards are always going to be in demand and the primo stuff, but we saw second year cards sort of escalate. That might be an area where we see I think we've seen a little bit of that actually already, maybe a little bit more of that. But I think overall the hobby is proven to be strong, that can weather these maybe things that normal other kinds of entities in businesses and industries, not so much.
And look, I think that's a really awesome point, right? It's very normal, even in really strong bull markets in whatever industry, for there to be, bubbles or, things that are overheated within the category. I think you're right. I mean, again, we primarily deal, not primarily, we exclusively deal in iconic collectibles, right? Of iconic athletes, that are of highly investable underlying players and sports and categories, right? But I think it's perfectly normal and rational in any marketplace to have, bubbles that are forming within the marketplace, right? And the other thing that I think people are not necessarily realizing, or maybe they do, but I don't think, I don't think a lot of people who I speak to are realizing this, right? If you think about sports, right? Sports collectibles versus other types of collectible categories, whether it's coins, whether it's stamps, what have you. Sports is a very small industry relative to some of these other collectible categories. And why, right? It doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. You could argue that, my opinion is that sports collectibles are the perfect intersection of passion and profits, right? People are very passionate about sports. They're very passionate about the hobby, very passionate about collecting. It's incredibly fun. There's a lot of news that happens every single day, which could affect prices. It's a really fun hobby, and there's a lot of money to be made, right? But when you stack up sports collectibles versus other collectible categories, there's a lot of room for sports collectibles to mature, to even be remotely in the same ballpark in terms of the size of the industry as some of these other categories, right? So I think, as people who grew up collecting cards like myself, right, as we get older and we have a little more income and, and we're sort of, we're looking back fondly on our childhood, and maybe we have kids of our own and we're trying to show them, some of the things that we did when we were growing up. I mean, I just think there's a lot of growth that could still be had for this to even be remotely on par with a lot of these other collectible categories that some people believe to be sort of, I don't want to say dying, but, slowing down in interest level, right? You look at watches, right? There have been $30 million watch sales. You look at coins, there have been these ridiculous headline numbers of sales. I mean, we're talking, Jordan, 738,000. We're talking, Mantles at 5 million. I mean, and those are record-breaking numbers, right? But again, put that in the context of other collectible categories, and it's tiny. It's almost inconsequential, right? So again, I think as sports, the passion for sports, the nostalgia of the hobby continues to expand, I see a lot of growth for this industry and for the hobby, and that's really exciting, really exciting.
Yeah, and I got into, I've told the story more than once. I got into cards because I was a sports kid and a sports fan first. And with all due respect to those who collect coins or stamps, like you mentioned, those, and like you said, many of those things bring crazy amounts of money on the secondary market. But you're not watching, most of the people who appear on stamps and coins, with all due respect, aren't here anymore. There's no performance as far as from who's depicted on them, where we see in sports, with current athletes, their performance really drives the value of the card market. And I think that's a huge, to me, that's why I love it, because you can watch a game on TV, go to a game in normal times, pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, and see the performance and know, hey, I have this card or those cards of that player, and let's see what happens now. And, a stamp would obviously a well-respected, whether it be a president or person in history, but the sort of the records kind of, the book sort of closed on what they've done to make them that status, where athletes and stuff we see in cards, that's ever changing based on what's happening on that ice, that field, that court. And I think that makes it all the more interesting. And probably why I do cards.
And to that point also, right, again, I think with new companies that have come into the category that, sort of in some ways have been replacing eBay, right, as like, sort of the go-to source to invest in the hobby, right? Whether it's collectible, whether it's other fractional companies, whether it's companies like Star Stock or a company like Dibs, which is, there's very easy ways for people to almost replace sports gambling or fantasy sports with sports cards, right? As just a way to get almost instantaneous liquid exposure to the hobby, right? In ways that, if you have an inclination on something, on a player, right? You want to take a spec on a player who you think is, a rookie who's going to pop off, or you think there's a team that's going to win a championship or what have you, you can now, really invest and bet on the hobby in ways that are liquid and much cheaper and much more interactive and much more fun. And I think some of the money that had been previously going to fantasy sports or to sports gambling is also starting to trickle into our hobby. So again, I just think you have a lot of good things going for the industry right now. That's not to say that things will always be so good. I'm sure this industry will have hiccups and things that happen, of course. But I think there's a lot of good happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the old man on the porch, Ezra. I've been doing this a long time, and you mentioned something about I do something called prospecting. I'll buy or start to buy, especially in baseball, a guy who's probably 4 or 5 years out from ever getting to the bigs. I'll listen to minor league podcasts and try to get some information there. I'll watch some stuff that I can. I'll read the scouting reports and what people are saying, and there's a pride to that when you buy someone like 4 or 5 years out, and they make the pros and hit. You pat yourself on the back a little bit. Now, obviously, you have some help in coming to that decision, but when you do that, you take some personal satisfaction. Like, hey, I guessed right. If you guess right 7 out of 10 times, you're going to probably do
Hall of Famer.
All right when you talk about the financial aspects of it. So, and I've always done that, and I think it's really more prevalent even in today's hobby more than ever before, especially with now we have Bowman Draft and guys are appearing on cardboard and chrome 5 years before they ever actually play a real major league game. I'm old school where you didn't get a card until you actually made the big leagues. And so the landscape and how cards are have also changed too. And so, I always say if you, way back when, if you, God forbid, you went in a coma for a couple years and you came out of it, you'd still know everything. Now, if that happened today, you'd have to relearn everything. It's the hobby's just literally changing week to week. It's, someone asked me, what do I enjoy about doing the podcast the most? And number one is talking to great people such as yourself, the guest on this show. But the other thing after that really is the hobby itself. Just, you got to stay on your toes. You can't get complacent, and you don't know what's going to happen next. And it's almost like a show, and it's a cliffhanger, and you can't wait to next week to see what winds up happening. And then there's a new storyline. You got to wait till the next week to see what happens then. And it's enthralling. And, I'm glad it's like that. I think it keeps things fresh. It keeps things interesting. And, it's great.
Agree. Yeah, no, I think that's very, very well said. You're right. I mean, it's a very exciting time to be in the industry. It really is. And again, I'm just thrilled with collectibles, sort of place in the industry, right? I mean, there's a lot of easy ways to kind of get exposure to it, but where we're dealing, it's really a part of the marketplace which had been kind of off limits for the majority of people who wanted to participate in. People were just priced out. And one stat that we talk about often, because I think it's really powerful, right? 92% of the United States is not accredited. Right? So 92 out of 100 people, odds are, would not be able to afford the items that they can afford on Collectible. And if it was 92 who couldn't afford it 2 weeks ago, man, it's probably 95, 96, 97 who can't afford it today, right? So again, if you want to participate at the highest of levels where historically the returns have been really strong, then all roads sort of do lead back to fractional if you're not fortunate enough to be one of those few people who can afford to bid $1 million on Golden or Heritage or any of these other auction platforms, right? So again, I just think it's an exciting time for the industry, whether you look at it as an investment asset class, which we do, or a hobby, which we also do, by the way. But again, I just think it's an exciting time for the industry. I think we're just getting going here. I think we're in the really early innings. And again, I think, as we mentioned earlier on the call, right, you have just new people. You have new people, new outlets, new exposure. Yeah, there are articles about our industry, what seems like on a daily basis, and ESPN, Wall Street Journal, Forbes, you name it, almost every day we're setting new records. And I think a lot of the perception of any asset class, right, whether it's stocks or whether it's whatever, is the narrative around it, right?
Yeah.
And the narrative around sports collectibles as an asset class is only getting stronger.
All right, we're going to step aside for a real quick break from one of our national sponsors, but we'll be right back with Ezra Levine. Sports Card Nation is back with Collectibles Ezra Levine.
What I'm excited about is Collectibles is going to be introducing our secondary marketplace this week. And, I think through marketplaces like ourselves, we'll be able to have a lot more data, right? A lot more data that is transparent, that is timely, that we can slice and dice and present to anyone who's interested in our hobby as an investment asset class. Really, hopefully, really compelling data to suggest that, look, if you're looking for a diversified exposure to something that you didn't have otherwise, that we're a pretty good place to look. We're a pretty good place to look.
When this airs, that secondary market will probably be live. So, shout out to everyone there. Check that out. One of my questions I have sort of ties into that is, what determines when you offer an item up for fractional shares for people to purchase those? What determines the market cap? Where does that number? How do you determine that it's, let's say, 1 million and not 2 million, or 2 million and not 1 million?
Yeah, we do our best to appraise items, right? So we have expert appraisers and curators who we work with. Some are leading auctioneers, curators, collectors, right? So we rely on experts to help us figure out what a fair price is for all parties, right? I mean, we're a two-sided marketplace, so we want to be fair to sellers, of course, and get them fair prices today, and we want to be fair to our investors and buyers to buy in at fair prices and hopefully have room to further appreciate. So again, the valuations you see on Collectible, again, will not always be perfect. We definitely have some people who think our valuations are awesome, and some people who think our valuations are overpriced. I mean, it's like any other marketplace, of course. And we encourage everyone to do their own research, to do their own homework on any offering, right? And if you like it, then invest. If you don't, then we're going to have plenty of other stuff coming your way. But yeah, we do sort of a lot of homework. We're very thoughtful in our approach, and we do the best we can to really be a fair marketplace for everyone who participates.
No, and that's good. And one other question, kind of along those lines. This is actually from a listener of the show that knew you were going to be on. He wanted me to ask you: does, in the cases where a consignor retains 50% ownership, yep, does that change the evaluation of the market cap at all?
It doesn't really. Again, we've had people who love investing in offerings where the consignor retains majority because they think it means that the consignor thinks that there's a lot of upside, right? If you're willing to retain that much of something, you probably are doing it for a reason. I don't think people are doing it for charity, right? Everyone's in it to sort of make money, right? And we have other people who think that it represents a loss of control, and for that reason, they're not going to invest. So again, we've heard both viewpoints. I think both are legitimate. I respect both of them. Again, how much your consignor retains really does not factor into our valuation. We try to get sellers and buyers fair, good prices based on today's market conditions, and that's all that we can do.
Yeah, and even to kind of give my own kind of answer to that or assessment, unless you're going to be the majority owner of that, I don't know if it really even comes into play. Unless you're going to own 51% of it yourself, I don't know how much it matters. But like you said, to each their own. Some people have different ways to looking at things, and like you said, you offer things where all the shares are available. Sometimes they're not, and people have a choice to invest or put their money where they so choose or deem fit.
And look, I think the major thing, which is a huge thing for Collectible, and I think is hugely important for this industry, is transparency. Right? Is just being transparent with what every offering is, who owns what, how much people are selling. And we go to great lengths to be as transparent as we possibly can. Everything's fully disclosed in our SEC regulations filings, right? We make that readily available in the application. We also make that information readily available in the actual application within each offering section, who owns what, how much is being sold to the public, how much is being retained by the consignor. Again, and yeah, it's a marketplace just like anything else. Some people love retained ownership, some people don't like it, but either way, our job is to provide liquidity, flexibility, and transparency to the market. And, I'm very proud to say that, I think we do a really good job on all three of those fronts.
Yeah, transparency. We see what's going on, not just in the hobby, but just in the world with some issues there. And so, getting that in any walk of life or any industry now is refreshing. And so, the fact you guys are doing that speaks volumes for your product, what you're doing, and what you stand for. So. Kudos there. I think we need more transparency rather than less. And so you're doing it the right way. Ezra, I can't, you kind of answered one of the questions. I don't write a lot of questions down. I know I told you that before. One of the questions I had, and you kind of answered it already, but, was you're 4 months into the fractional shares part of what Collectable does. Yep. And you mentioned, I was going to ask you, are you surprised at how successful and how it's been so far? You kind of already alluded to that you are, but more specifically, kind of touch 4 months in here. How do you assess where you are and where you're going?
Yeah, look, we're thrilled, right? I mean, look, there's a lot of stuff that we can do better and that we're working on. We're in the very early stages of our company's journey. We're in the very early stages of fractional. It's not the easiest business in the world to navigate, but we're incredibly pleased with where we are. Incredibly pleased. Again, I said at the top of the show that, I heard from a lot of people that people are not going to really accept you, right? That, that it's a new concept and it's a new way of doing things, and the hobby doesn't like new participants. We felt the opposite. We felt a tremendous amount of support from the industry. Of course, there are naysayers, and that's healthy. I love that because it makes us better, right? But we've been blown away and really appreciative for the support that everyone's shown to us. And again, I think when you build something, you never really know. You never really know what the reception is going to be. You hope that the intent of your product, that your love of the industry, that your passion for it comes across in what you're building. We've definitely been working really hard to bring this product to the marketplace, to hopefully improve the industry, to provide opportunities to people who wouldn't otherwise have them. So we work really hard on it. Our hearts are in the right place. And again, we're just thrilled with the support that we receive from the hobby. And again, we have a lot coming. Right? We have a lot coming down the pipeline. We have about 40-something offerings that we're on the verge, hopefully, of getting qualified by the SEC. As soon as those are qualified, we will have a lot of activity on the platform. And we're launching our secondary market, which we're really excited about. I think you mentioned, John, that by the time this airs, the secondary marketplace will have already been live. So I hope by the time people are hearing this that the secondary market has gone off without a hitch and that people are enjoying it. We're the first company in fractional, at least, we're going to be introducing an intraday continuous trading period, right? So we're calling this Power Hour. So from 3 o'clock to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll have 1 hour of intraday continuous trading. I think this is going to be really, really exciting for people. Again, no other fractional company has done anything quite like this. So we're excited to kind of provide that innovation, that that new wave of doing this. So again, I think fractional and sort of especially Collectable are so early on in what we're doing. We're in version 1 of this. Hopefully, we're in the top of the first inning here. But again, we're ecstatic about where we are. We have a great team. I'd like to give a shout out to my team. I mean, just tireless workers who all love the industry, who believe in the mission, who believe in what we're trying to accomplish. And again, we're just sort of grateful and appreciative for everyone's support.
Yeah, and like you said, you're early on, but I think you guys have led the way with innovation. Like you said, the secondary market that you're going to be the first to do it. And fractional shares, whether you participate, you don't participate, they're here for the long haul. It looks like Collectable is going to be leading the way in that area of the hobby. And I'm excited to see what's coming myself as someone who's a Collectable, if you want to call them user, member, what have you. I'm definitely going to be checking you out, and so I'm excited to see what's around the next corner with what you guys are doing.
Thanks, John.
So I always give our guests the final word, give out where people can find out, sign up for Collectable, websites, URL, all that good stuff. Take your time.
Got it. Yeah. So our website is www.collectable.com. So you can check that out for just information on the company. As of now, we're an app only, right? We're available for iOS and Android. So if you want to participate on the IPOs and on the secondary market, you gotta go to your app store and you gotta download Collectibles app. Again, we're just tremendously excited, sort of about what the industry has in store, what Collectible has in store. Follow us, join us. If you have any questions, we have a very responsive customer service department. We have people who are all across the world at this point, so you'll always get someone over email, over phone, over text message, what have you. You can follow us on social media. We are at Collectable app. I think across every social media channel. And yeah, again, we're pumped for the hobby. We're pumped for Collectable, the opportunity that we have in front of us. And I think that this hobby has a lot going for it right now. Again, I think it's a really, really powerful combination of tailwinds that we have, both with widespread consumer adoption, with collectibles being cool for the first time, and with just a lot of money coming into the space, But with that comes a need to make sure that the people who've been with this hobby forever, who love this hobby, are not priced out, and that they have options, they have flexibility, and that's what that's what Collectable provides, and that's what we're going to continue to provide. We fight for our users every single day, and we will continue to do so. But again, thank you, John, for the platform here. I'm a huge fan of your show. Again, I love that jingle. I will sing that in the shower, I'm sure. But yeah, again, so thank you for having us on, and love to come on anytime.
Yeah, we'll have you back. Again, I was saying all those nice things. I'll get that check out in the mail to you first thing tomorrow. But continued success to you in Collectable. And like I said, that's not lip service. I'm a user, so I'm excited to see what's on the horizon.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
Sports Card Nation podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman! I know you're in there!
Sports Card Nation. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. So this week's question I've been asked by a few different people, so not attributed to just one person. And the question basically is, what do I think of the market long term for stickers in the hobby? And I'm actually going to do a hobby quick hits episode pertaining to just this topic. So I'll keep this answer brief and save my long-winded answer for that show. But I called the 2019-20 Panini basketball sticker product, the ones that also had cards in them too, don't forget. My sleeper product, I put some of those boxes away. I'm not even listing them for sale. I think they have long-term value. I think we've seen stickers escalate in value. I mean, even when you look at the late 80s, basketball stickers from the Fleer product, and we know what a Jordan rookie sticker is bringing now. and even the other ones have went up. So I think people, and when I say people, I mean the hobby, I think are more receptive to stickers being a fully fledged part of the hobby, while they may not always be cards. And I've changed on that. It's funny. My tastes have changed as I've gotten older in the hobby. I was a young hobbyist that didn't like smaller cards like T206s or, Bowmans and things like that. Stickers was something I did when I was a kid, and so I thought that was kind of a gimmicky thing. But today I like both. Those things I didn't like, I like the smaller cards, like the Blake Jamieson's 51 series that just came out. And I really do like stickers, and actually have been buying them and putting them away. The Panini football stickers with rookies like Burrow and Herbert. The basketball releases from 2019 and 20. I got boxes of that put away. I've bought in some of the football sticker packs unopened, put those away as well. And so I'm a believer in them. I think we see a market that's, everything really right now. Can that change? Sure. But, I like stickers more now than I ever did before. I think graded copies, really high graded copies of certain stickers, again, long term, are going to be viable forces in the hobby. So again, I'll keep it short. I'll keep it brief. Like I said, I'm going to look for that here in the near future. I'm going to do an episode of Hobby Quick Hits about stickers in the hobbies. All right, time for the in memoriam segment of the show. 4 dignitaries from the sports world were lost this week. Leon Spinks, former heavyweight champion, former gold medalist boxer, died 67 years old on February 5th from prostate cancer and some other underlying issues. Spinks was famous for upsetting Muhammad Ali to win the heavyweight championship of the world in a split decision. It was only Leon Spinks' 8th fight as a professional. So a severe underdog and pulled the upset, would wind up subsequently losing it in the rematch and never getting it back. He did try again later in his career against Larry Holmes, unsuccessfully. On February 7th, at age 58, sports journalist Pedro Gomez passed away at home. No cause of death revealed. Only 58 years old. Pedro covered mostly baseball. He didn't just cover baseball, but known for his baseball coverage, including 25 World Series and 22 All-Star games under his belt. Numerous baseball shows that he appeared on, including Baseball Tonight. If you're a baseball fan, you knew who Pedro Gomez is. And his son Rio is the Boston Red Sox organization. Pedro passed away just 58 years old. On February 8th, the football world lost former coach Marty Schottenheimer, age 77. He did play in the NFL. His career was very brief, but was more known in his coaching circles. He was head coach of the Browns, Chiefs, Chargers, and Skins, famous for regular season success and unable to replicate that in the postseason. He's the only coach, here's a little known fact, he's the only NFL coach with 200 wins not in the NFL Hall of Fame, at least at this point. He finished his career with 200 wins on the dot, 126 losses, and like I said, only head coach with 200 wins not in the Hall at this point. Marty Schottenheimer was 77 years old. Baseball outfielder Billy Conigliaro died on February 10th. He was 73 years old. The younger brother of Red Sox legend Tony Conigliaro played for 3 teams: the hometown Red Sox, the Oakland A's, and the Milwaukee Brewers. He was the 5th pick in the 1965 baseball draft, but his career never lived up to the billing. He finished with a .256 career average, 40 home runs, 128 RBIs. He did win a World Series ring in 1973 with the Oakland A's. Billy Conigliaro was 73 years old. All right, after the in memoriam segment where we lost people from the sports world, let's bring some positivity back as well. It's time to announce the winner of last week's Blake Jamieson 1951 Top Series Wave 3. A lot of entries. Thank you for everyone who listened to the episode, who entered the contest. I put everyone's name on the list. Rolled the dice. It rolled 11. Randomized that list 11 times. And when all the smoke cleared, the winner of that Wave 3 1951 series from the Twitterverse, Red Hills Collectibles, Ty Slocum. Ty Slocum, Red Hills Collectibles, congratulations. You've won a Wave 3 1951 series from Blake Jamieson. All right, folks, that's going to do it for episode 114. I want to thank my guest, Ezra Levine, talking about Collectable and big things coming for them. Great fractional program, but like he said, they're going to start doing some different things, so be on the lookout for that. You know, regardless of what you think of fractionals, it's here to stay. It's got a place in the hobby, and it's a fun way to kind of get involved with some bigger cards that maybe you obviously couldn't buy on your own, and to be part of that. It's really, I'm a stocks guy. I've done stocks and bonds for over 20 years myself, and you know, it's like stocks. You buy into a company with stocks, you don't get any tangible stuff. You get some dividends, and you know, you obviously own a small part of that company based on its performance and how it's doing in the marketplace. Your stock may rise and fall based on that, and that's really what fractionals are in card form. And so if I'm doing it in non-card form, I mean, it's just sort of a no-brainer for me. I'm going to do it in cards. Again, I'm dabbling in it. I'm not, backing up the Brinks truck and going crazy. So again, thanks to Ezra. Thanks to you out there who make this show what it is today. I don't take that fact for granted. I appreciate you. Thanks for putting us where we are. Gotta say, really liking the move over to Spreaker Prime, and hopefully there's some little nuances, differences with the show. Hopefully you appreciate it. And we got a lot of great guests coming. Remember, Hobby Quick Hits on Mondays, this show on Fridays. Speaking of this show on Fridays, next show on the 19th, my very special guest will be Mr. Rob Go. Mr. Rob Go is an actor, serial entrepreneur, and most recently known as the gentleman who bought the Mickey Mantle PSA 9 1952 tops for $5.2 million. We're obviously going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about a lot of other things. He's more than the guy who spent the most money on one card in the history. He's a cancer survivor. We're going to talk about how beating the odds and surviving cancer kind of changed his outlook on life, and we're going to talk about the hobby in general and some other things he's doing. A great conversation with Mr. Rob Go, and give us a little look behind that curtain into that transaction and kind of how it took place and how it went down. And but again, we're going to talk about a lot of other things as well. So happy to have him on the show. That'll be next Friday. Remember, Hobby Hotline every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Various hosts. Really fun show to do. Call in, be interactive, set the tone, ask the questions, and we'll see you Saturday morning for that show as well. So plenty of content out there, guys. This hobby is great. I'm having a lot of fun with everything. The hobby, buying, selling, the content, listening to others, and it's a fun time during some tough times with the pandemic. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you with what is the show mantra. Always remember, the hobby is the people. We'll see you next time.